Good afternoon, good evening, green-fingered ones and not so green-fingered ones. The head gardener, Lee McGrady, is here. John Aggett is here, and Anna is here, going around the screen with you here on Get Out and Grow, the Happy Homesteaders, the home of the Happy Homesteaders, and our gardening Q&A. Thank you, Paul and Louise. It's actually Louise at the kitchen table tonight. Some lovely photos in. Hold on a minute. Looks like Lee's been doing some self-assembly furniture, or he's got a new seed catalogue. No? He's looking at the news and is now wishing he hadn't. Okay, we've got your plant pictures, Paul and Louise. We welcome that from other people as well. The WhatsApp number is 913-590-303. If you do, actually, if you want to call the studio, it's the same number as well. It's on the screen right now. We will show those pictures from Paul and Louise in due course. And I've got a favourite as well. And who's this? Who put this on the screen? Is this you, John?
It is indeed, because we were saying before the show started, because, well, what are everybody's favourite plants? We thought we'd ask you, so we did, and now we have. And comment with your favourite plants.
Excellent.
Basically.
Even a link. Even a link.
To.
Yeah, the Wikipedia link's good, and then we can have a look at the photo as well. I've got a new favourite today. Been at the Oberdosh Lagoon at this lunchtime, and look at that. This is a plant. I don't even know what it is. I have seen them before. They're very sturdy, and they seem to start off a kind of pinkish colour, and they look like they're going to flower in pink or red, and they open up into this beautiful yellow. What is it, like a gerbera-ish? Is it an aquatic gerbera or something? Just by the lagoon. Very, very hardy plant in terms of the stem and how it likes to grow in with the tough grasses. But then a beautiful, delicate flower like that. So that's my new favourite today. I don't know what it's called. Do you recognise that, Lee?
Sorry, mate. I've just been for my cup of tea. I missed it.
Do you recognise them?
I've seen them. I don't know what they're called. They're all over the place here.
They are, aren't they?
All over the beach.
Yeah, yes, that's right. They love the sand dunes. They love the sand dunes as well. So I'm thinking it must be quite tough, or something that might grow quite nicely in the tough grass lawns of Portugal as well.
They're quite delicate flower, but the actual plant itself is quite a rubbery.
Exactly.
Plant. Is that?
Yeah, that's the guy. That's the guy. Absolutely. There it is. Yeah, and I think it's one of those blooms as well that follows the sun a little bit as well and protects itself when it goes dark and goes cold, and then opens itself to the light.
I'll find out what it's called just for you.
Oh, good man. Cheers. Appreciate it. Okay, so how's your week been, John? Managed to do any gardening? I know you had a birthday over the weekend, didn't you?
Indeed, yes. I don't really think we've got much gardening done, to be honest, but what I do have, however, is a good gardening tip. Discovered this week. So basically what it is, so it turns out that this is a double thing, because it's a gardening tip and it's a good way of avoiding throwing plastic in the bin as well. So it's plastic bottles. So what you do is you stick a plastic bottle in the upside down in the soil of a tomato planter type thing, and then you probably do it with any bit of bit of soil actually, and then you cut the bottom off, or what would be cut the bottom part of it off, and then stick it upside down so there's a hole in each end, and then it's a good way so you can use it to then the water will go through the hole in the bottom and it will go down into the so you can it's a good way for helping you water your tomatoes, or
a bit of a reservoir, I guess, as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the water goes deep rather than runs off the surface. Yeah,
I'll have to take some photos during the week and see if I can put them up on Facebook. It depends, because I've not done that with my new computer yet. So, it's a maybe thing. It might not happen. It depends how easy it is with this new computer. But yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, let's go to Paul and Louise. And I think it's Louise, really, who's answering the questions today. Am I right, Louise? Favourite plants? Oh, this is a good question. People are loving this. Thane Tierney's also sent an answer in. Oh no, has given an answer to my question actually about my plant. We'll come back to you in a moment, Thane. Thanks for joining us this evening. Oh, favourite plant, hard to choose just one, says Louise. All cottage garden plants. Yes, I'm with you on that. Thank you. Cup of tea incoming for me as well. Thank you very much, Mrs. M. All cottage garden plants, sweet peas, peonies. Oh, how do I say that? Is that Nausea? Nautia? Canortia?
I think I've heard of Nautia, I think. I'm not terribly up to speed on what they look like, but I've certainly heard Mum mention them before.
Do you have to plant them at the back because they're naughtier than the other plants?
Could be.
I don't know. Dahlias as well, or some posh people call them dahlias. And Lee may well have heard this. There are some funny British people who, instead of saying fuchsia, say fuchsia, which I think is quite hilarious. But I think you heard of that, Lee? Yeah. And yes, over there by the fuchsia and cosmos as well. You do like a very what would we call it? A florid, beautiful plant, Louise. I think a showy plant. You like a showy bloom. So many favourites. And Thane's telling us that the fella I was showing you, and I'll put it on the screen again. That to him he says looks like the ice plant. Gardenia.net / Delosperma nubigenum, Latin name for that one. And yes, ice plant. Interesting name for a plant. Correct, Carl. The succulent with yellow flowers is Delosperma nautia tar. Naughty maybe naughty. I don't know. We'll come back to that, Louise. And actually, while we're talking to you, we will have a look at the lovely blooms that you've shared with us. Let me get rid of my ice plant there. Now I know it's called that. And have a look at your photos that you sent through to WhatsApp. Really appreciate this. Anybody who wants to do this, not just to show off their garden, but who doesn't know something that's growing in their garden, a bit like me, wants something identified, or to help furnish a question a little bit better, is always good as well to send photos to that number. And here are Louise's blooms this week. We just pop those onto the screen. Yeah, and a proof of her love of the big flowers, of the big blooms. I love those as well. I'm not sure which is which here, but some beauties. Look at the colour in that garden at the moment. A proper English country garden, cottage garden, that. And I think attracting the bees. I think you were saying, if you wouldn't mind cutting and pasting again, Louise, your comment that you sent to me from WhatsApp into the comments, that'd be awesome. Thank you very much, those much appreciated. Your garden is looking lovely, really nice at the moment. So fabulous. And let's go to some articles. And I've got a question actually. That's a question that's arising from a question for the head gardener here. Before we go there, Marcos Valbon, hello for all. I like to smell the jasmine plants. It's a beautiful smell for sure on a warm, balmy evening in Portugal. Thanks for joining us, Marcos. Okay, we'll come back to Anna, to your article that you posted up about vertical gardening, which I thought was really good. We will share that in just a moment. However, from another Facebook group, just in this evening, I belong to a few of them, as you might imagine. But a lady called Maggie says, does anyone know a gardener in the Penella area? And that's quite a long way from Lee, so it's probably not of interest. And it's somebody who understands that weeds must be removed with their roots. It's pretty basic, isn't it? One who doesn't dig up prized spring bulbs. That sounds like she's had a bad experience. One who understands about composting. One who will look after my garden the way I want it looked after, and who understands that I'm a bit older now, less able, but still would like a beautiful garden. And she sounds like she deserves a lovely garden and deserves that sort of help. But what occurred to me, Lee, is those are the kind of credentials, the basic qualifications for a would-be gardener. How easy is it to get into as a business? I mean, somebody might look at that and think, I could do that. Why don't I start a business as a gardener? Is it straightforward, or is there a lot to consider? And are you about to put people off?
100% of my clients have had gardeners previously and have not been happy with them. And that's because anyone can start a gardening business. Anybody with enough money, buy a machine, buy a cheap lawnmower, cheap trimmer, put in the back of a car, a family saloon will do, a family estate will do the job, and they can go and cut grass. But there's a difference between a maintenance man and a gardener.
Yes.
It's I mean, there's a market for it. There's a market for people that want just a grass cutting and trimming.
Yeah.
And good luck to wants to get into that and charge minimum wage and do it.
Yeah.
But the lady you just mentioned, she doesn't want an unqualified, uneducated gardener. She wants someone that knows what they're doing and spends the time and makes the effort. And that's how I operate.
As I
So
suspect.
there's variations on it in every trade, isn't there? We all know a bad mechanic, and we all know an expensive mechanic that does the job properly.
Yeah, but I'm
just the
thinking,
same.
yeah, and I'm thinking as well, the ones who do a good job stay in work, don't they? They get the word of mouth recommendations. But what interested me there, what sort of training, what sort of college would somebody go into, and how long is it going to take to set up a business? I mean, because there's not just the learning side, that you have to have the actual business capability as well, don't you, to be a successful gardener if you're not going to be working for a corporation. So what's the trajectory of that like for somebody who wants to get into it and thinks they could help somebody like Maggie there?
Well, it's kind of lifelong learning. You never fully, you never know everything about everything, and there's so many variations within gardening, from being a plant specialist, from being a botanist, to being a horticulturalist, someone that deals with trees. So there's a massive variation of what you want to get into. So I mean, it depends where your passion lies.
Yeah.
If you wanted to do the maintenance side of it, you could just start tomorrow, and you just select your customers that suit the way you want to work.
Yes.
And you'll make money doing it.
Yeah.
Run into someone's garden, over the grass quickly, stim around the edges, run out. You'll make, the minute they ask you to fix the sprinkler system, or the minute they've got a disease on the orange tree, you'll be goosed.
Yes.
The best way to get into it is to go through an apprenticeship, especially in the UK, because there's many of them. You do like I did, start at the local authority. I started on £16 a week, doing my apprenticeship there. Thank you, Cal. Did you hear that? Back then. Yeah.
16 whole quid a week. Wow.
The old YTS scheme, weren't it? And that's the basic. That was the basic way to get into it.
Amazing.
Back then, and the apprenticeships are paid better now.
I hope so.
I went through Lancaster University, but through the YTS scheme, then through the modern apprenticeship scheme, as it was then. Studied at Lancaster, which is the best horticultural college in the UK, because I went. Lancaster in a place called Myerscough, just behind Blackpool. So the best way to do it would be through an apprenticeship with an educated gardener. Put the time in, put the effort in, choose a subject within horticulture that you enjoy, and specify in that. That's what I would recommend.
Well said. Okay, and be bothered. I mean, take your care in people's gardens, because with the case we give there of Maggie, who wants to enjoy her garden, is not as able as she used to be. You want somebody who's not a vandal, don't you? Who treats it with respect, like it's their own garden, really, and is sensitive to all the things that she said there. So there you go. If you're thinking about getting into gardening professionally, there's one trajectory.
Going back to treating it as your own garden, you just mentioned then, there's a great story I've come across in Scotland a few years ago. I moved out of Manchester, moved up to Dumfries and Galloway, stayed in my holiday home up there for a year. I had a year rest, and I'd done a few jobs knocking around the village and people getting to know me. And one of the guys from one of the big houses, Englishmen, had moved in and bought out a big Scottish home. And they'd had a garden for nearly 30 years. And he was showing some guests around the property. And the gardener that had been there for 30 years referred to it as his garden. And the new landowner, the new homeowner, didn't like that, and they had crossed words. So the gardener walked away and walked straight into more work than he could handle, because he had a great reputation. Yeah. The guy that owned the house apparently shouted behind him, "You'll not find any more work like this." But he walked straight to the pub. Everyone he'd quit was working the day after.
Fantastic.
The poor guy the house couldn't find another gardener because nobody was prepared to work. Because anyone with any knowledge or ability, that's how you treat every job. You treat it as your own garden, or that's how you should treat every job.
Yeah, amazing. There's a lesson to all the stately homeowners who step in and steal the glory of the garden that's been lovingly tended to by the head gardener there. Brilliant. We do have a picture from Louise. The Nautia, Canortia, however you say it, are the tall stemmed pink flowers in the picture here. They self-seed and they love a dry, sunny garden. Fantastic. So we'll leave you at those lovely blooms up for a minute for your next comment, Louise. I agree with Lee. Most professional gardeners tend to have specific fields of interest, expertise. Apprenticeships are great, but for learning to love gardening and nature from a young age sets you up for life, is the last bit of that comment, doesn't it? Get them in the garden young. Get them growing the sunflowers and tomatoes that we've talked about before. Portugal have plants from around the world because the weather is always good. Yes, and because of the great voyaging instincts, of course, of the Portuguese, presumably going all around the world with the discoveries and bringing things back to plant in Portugal from the various expeditions abroad. Yeah, it is an amazing place for plants. And I saw the heron fishing close to those ice plants, which have now been correctly identified as the Delosperma. Thank you very much for Thane and Louise together there. Okay, Anna, you found a really great article. We got a little bit of a few tips for vertical growing. I don't know how easy it would be if I pop this on the screen. Are you able to give us a bit of a read through this, or is it too tiny? Let's have a quick look.
The last one was a little bit on the small side, text wise, but I can have a go. And yes, I've got one question as well. I've just been sort of looking through one of my default sort of phone apps. I think they call it Google Now or something, and it seems to sort of make a note of subjects that you seem interested in, like football, gardening, all that sort of thing. And it's come up with quite a few gardening ones lately. So I've just been having a little look and just seeing which ones look interesting to post up. And
thank you.
Yeah.
Well, what? So this one came up as a search because you registered alongside your football. You love a football, and I guess you weren't unhappy to see Man City beaten at the weekend.
I didn't actually get around to seeing the football. I think I only found out about it because a friend of mine is a Chelsea fan, so he was quite happy about the result. So that was the first I heard about it this morning. So being a United fan, it's I don't mind Chelsea. So but yeah.
Excuse me.
Go on. Hello. What's happening? Oh,
hummingbird hawk moth just come into the garden.
Oh, wow. Okay. Let's get that off the screen. Is it gone?
It's down by the roses, I think. I don't think I'm going to catch it on the camera.
We're going to go. We're searching for hawk moth.
Second one this year. It's come down to the wildflower meadow, but I can't see it. I think it might have skedaddled. I think it's gone.
Exciting though.
Oh, well, it was. You got my heart racing.
I saw a heron chasing a bird of prey this afternoon.
Oh, fantastic. So that's better than humming moth. Oh, that's a shame. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's all right. False alarm, but that would have been nice to see. So going back to our little article here, what did anything particularly attract you about this, Anna? Is it the fact that if like with the project, we're trying to encourage people to get out and grow, and if they haven't got much space and they can't grow outwards, they can grow upwards.
Yeah, I think that was one of the thoughts that I had in mind. I think, and the I think in the I was just sort of interested in that little bit there when it was just listing the plants and veg that like the sunlight and that sort of thing. And it's just amazing how much you can grow in sort of whatever size space you have, whether it's a balcony or a back garden or a field or whatever. You can just grow up anything if the conditions allow, really. So
well, it says the leafies like lettuce, cabbage, and greens do well with limited sunlight. So that's going to be pretty good if you've got a shady sort of balcony. This will keep you going, this lot, wouldn't it? Tomatoes, peppers, potatoes, beans, carrots, and radishes, and even vine crops like squash, pumpkins, and cucumbers. And then they give you some tips for growing upwards. Hanging baskets, trellises are two of their suggestions here. So fantastic. Thank you for finding us that. Keep the questions coming in the comments. John was giving there. Was that a moth or a vegetables Matt growing, John?
What's that, Carl?
So you've put a yum in our back office message.
Yeah. And then I put spoiler alert because of you said the football result to Anna, and she hadn't seen the football, so that was a bit of a spoiler alert moment.
Hopefully you weren't saving that, Anna. Okay, let's go to our group. And something I wanted to bring to people's attention here is we've got over nearly 600 people, getting off 600 people in to get out and grow happy homes to this group. It would be lovely to have a few more pictures, a few more questions. Given that there are so many people interested in gardening there. We've also had, we get some interesting posts here. Michelle Padova, I think, starting a project, encouragement of local tourism. She's got 7 aims of this project that they're talking about. They're going to be making 3 different eco-sustainable structures, tiny houses on wheels, bio-construction with bar, I'm not sure what that is, straw and wood, organisation of musical, artistic and cultural events, hostel for pilgrims, volunteers and tourists, organic garden with the possibility of creating common gardens as well. Nice. Plant and medicinal herbs garden and various workshops there. That is one of the interesting posts that's come up this week. Growing Homes, Organic and Eco Project. That's Growing Homes, a kind of a sister project to us as well. I don't know if you saw the lovely picture of the ladybirds. Actually, for anyone who's interested in that Growing Homes, Organic and Eco Project, just going to pop that in the comments now for you. My computer's running a bit more slowly. Did you say you had a question, Anna, that's come in?
Yeah, I've got one from Alex, my aunt in Wiltshire. I haven't got a photo for this one, so I'm just going by description. I've literally sort of worded it or worded it as well as I could with the info that I had, but basically found a few large 2p coin size in diameter chrysalis in the soil. They're dark brown in colour, and she was wondering what are they likely to turn into. She has heard them locally referred to as devil's coachman.
Wow.
But that's the only information I have, I'm afraid.
Devil's coachman.
It's always difficult. Yeah, it's always difficult when you come across the chrysalis that's underground because they all look exactly the same. There are a lot of moths that go beneath ground, and there are some beetles that do as well. So without seeing it and cutting it open, I couldn't say. It varies. It could be one of hundreds of things, but I tend to leave them or throw them out for the robins because the robins love them.
Yes.
Unless you get them in the lawn. If I find any under the lawn, I always squish them.
Squishing.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Right, and I've got a picture of the Devil's Coachman, which is such an intriguing name for a beetle. But I was going to ask you. I mean, I guess some people err on the side of sorry, gone to the wrong website there. No, I haven't. Some people err on the side of getting rid of everything, but you're generally okay. You don't mind leaving them in there and seeing what happens.
Oh no, I love beetles. Yeah, no, I like beetles.
Right,
if they're not doing me any harm, if they're not in amongst the veg, then I don't really care. I'll leave them be. They do a job. They clean up. They eat meat. The meat. So we tend to get rid of things that you don't want. So yeah, I'm quite happy to leave the beetles. Yeah.
Okay. A Beatles fan. And I mean, what a formidable looking thing that is. If it is indeed the larva of one of these, and they are very good natural pesticide. It says Wild About Nature site at .wordpress.com. They eat slugs, spiders, fly larvae, and other invertebrates. So they're part of the food chain you might want to keep and include. And look, there's a violet ground beetle. They are lovely, aren't they? Can freak you out a little bit when you sat there having a picnic, but they don't mean you any harm. I'm sure. As I'm always saying to my kids, they're more scared of you than you are of them. We have questions. Sorry, go on, Lee.
You say that. I had a running with a snake on Saturday afternoon, and it wasn't scared of me.
Tell us about it.
It was so small it couldn't actually bite me, but it tried twice. It hit me on the arm, and then when I tried to move away, it got me on the leg. It actually come at me and got me on the leg.
Really?
A little baby whip snake, but it was so small it couldn't actually get its mouth around me.
Wow.
So it wasn't scared of me at all. It was quite aggressive.
A plucky little fellow by the sound of it.
I've come across a few over the last couple of years, and they always seem to want to get away. This one wanted to come at me. So
really, wow. There you go.
We had a good chat, me and that snake. Yeah,
but not a whip snake, not one that can do you much harm, though, right? What, like a bite, like an insect bite, or what would happen if it had been big enough to give you a bit of a nip?
I believe even the big ones are only like a bee sting. So
right.
Yeah, it's not dangerous at all.
But a little bit worried.
I mean, unless you go into anaphylactic shock, I guess.
Yes. Well, the only dangerous, the same as in England, is the adder.
Yeah.
And I've come across a few adders, and they are kind of plastic little snakes. It takes a bit to provoke one into biting you.
Yes. So. Well, that's reassuring. John, you had a good safety notice to add there.
Anaphylactic shock. So it mainly okay to be snake, like the sort of stings and bites and things, but apart from if you go into anaphylactic shock, obviously.
Yes, indeed. And then you need your EpiPen, don't you? And you need a procedure if you're likely to get that from a wasp sting or any other sort of insect sting. Do a bit of research on that and make sure you're well prepared. And other people know where the EpiPen is, if that's your response to that. Thank you, Martin. Martin Jelfs joins us this evening. Great to have your company, Martin. I have some land next to a river which may flood a bit in the winter. What food trees, emphasis on food, could stand possible flooding? Central Portugal is where Martin is, Lee. What would you say to that?
I love the idea of land where the river floods onto it occasionally. It adds so much nutrient and nitrates. Floodplains are always the best place to grow any veg.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for fruit trees, you need something that's tall enough and strong enough to withstand the water. So apple trees would do really well there. Apple trees don't mind getting their feet wet. Any of the currant bushes will come back really well after a flood. Just trying to think of what I've seen in the UK along river embankments and walnuts. Yeah, the nuts don't mind getting their feet wet either. I've seen the walnuts growing in marshy, wet conditions.
Yeah.
Dry it gets you see. That's the problem is it'll be wet in the winter and bone dry in the summer because the water levels will drop. I don't think any of the bigger fruit trees. Obviously, you need to buy something substantial to get through the first couple of floods. Or use 2 good strong stakes to keep it steady. But it's good ground. If you can get a floodplain area, the nitrates and the nutrients that come with it are always beneficial. Okay,
excellent. And yes, but the key consideration is to make sure they stand a chance during the flood. The problem is not. The problem isn't that they're not going to like the water. The nutritional wash that they're going to get. The problem is that they just might physically be pushed over by the force of the water, and that's what you've got to watch out for, Martin.
Yeah, it really depends on his land, because a lot of floodplains, it's kind of a trickle. The water comes up from underneath as well. It doesn't necessarily come over the river embankment. It can come from underneath. So I would encourage him to grow some willow and some good thick grasses on the river embankment as well, just to hold the embankment in and hold the water in, so it comes over, it's not rushing away. Sort of slow the process of the water coming and going. Maybe some little divots, some little hills, some little shallow areas, so the water gets to settle rather than rushing past.
Okay, very good. Bit of swaling. Yeah. Okay, that's really good. And with the willow, of course, even though it's not a food tree, very useful in the garden.
Oh, it is useful in the garden, but it will help to hold the soils as well. If you kind of circle your property with it, or the area that's going to get flooded, it'll slow the water. It'll slow the water down, so it doesn't get that big rush into the fruit trees.
Yeah.
Like a protective barrier.
All right, and Louise has some experience with Paul in Portugal, and says oranges and pomegranate don't mind wet roots for part of the year as well, Martin. So great, excellent question there, and I hope that helps. Louise also saying we've had horsewhip snakes. The whole hamlet here can hear me scream when I surprise one that's basking on our driveway. Okay, let's stick with wildlife for a minute, because this came in from Jesse on the group during the week. This little fella had a little bit of an accident. I think we're not sure exactly why. Oh, bitten by a large puppy. Because you love wildlife as well as being a gardener, Lee. What's your advice in these sorts of situations? Let's hear what happens here and see the little fella in action. Lovely to see the ducklings this time of year, obviously, but look, he's got a little limp.
Poor Baba.
So what to do there, Lee? Leave them well alone, get them to the vet. What's the thing?
Although I do love wildlife, and I've worked in countryside management on occasion, and I've done a lot of volunteer work with Natural England and stuff like that. I do tend to leave things alone and let nature take its course. If it's a pet duck, if it's something they're keeping for eggs and they feel guilty and they feel some sort of ownership to it, then straight to the vet. But if it's a duck that's moving off the street, I just leave well alone and let nature take its course, because the mink need to eat as well, and the weasels need to eat. And,
that's hard. Okay.
I know it sounds harsh, but
yes. No, I get you.
Sometimes you can cause more stress and harm to a wild animal by trying to rescue it than just leaving it be. So,
totally understand it.
It's difficult. It's a difficult decision to make. You sound cold-hearted, but sometimes it's just best to let the weasel have a dinner.
I think you're right. As harsh as it does sound, but that's what's going on all the time in nature, isn't it? I remember being at John and Anna may well know the locks in Exeter, and you can walk down by. Yeah, you do. John, you had a little walk out the other day, didn't you? But you can walk all the way from the city centre right out along the waterway there. And there was a bit of a kerfuffle when I was out having a walk one Sunday afternoon, and they have swans down there. And the couple of cygnets, I think, got in a bit of trouble. And a woman shouted out at the top of her voice, does anyone know anything about swans? And I couldn't help it. I just shouted, I think they taste like chicken. And it wasn't exactly what she wanted to hear. It wasn't very helpful. And I had to make a bit of a hasty retreat from the scene there. Is that Portugal? Says Stephen to Martin Jells. Yes. That was Central Portugal, Stephen Wells. Gardener Stephen Wells. Thanks, I'll do it, says Martin. So, oranges, pomegranate, willow, apples, and some of the berries as well. Fantastic. 9 minutes to go. Get those questions in, folks. What are you doing this time of year, Lee? What do people need to be considering before they miss the boat? Because I was getting this great sense, like, I've been waiting so long for spring to come. Now it's here. You can't miss the boat, can you? You've got to make sure you get all the jobs done so you don't miss the season. What should we be keeping an eye out for?
The big job for this week in Portugal is making sure your water system's working correctly.
Okay.
Setting the times right, increasing your water flow, make sure all your sprinkler heads are facing the right direction so you're not wasting water, because water here in Portugal costs a fortune if you're not on a well.
Yes.
So, we've increased hours last week to 10 minutes twice a day. I've been doing all my customers on the rounds. I've been increasing all theirs up. Back in England, it's time to start looking at your lawns, start your scarifying routines, prepping for your seeding, to start overseeding the lawns and get everything clear now the last frost should have gone. And it'd be all weed in England now, will it? Be weeding every day. So yeah, I miss that, don't I? Weeding every day.
He's got a cheeky grin on his face saying that, I think. So, John and Anna, do you fancy taking anything on for this week?
I'm not really sure. I might do that thing with the plastic bottles I was talking about earlier. At some point, that would be quite cool to do, and then obviously I can post that on Facebook.
Yes, nice one.
I could even do a YouTube video about that actually, and post that on there. Maybe that's a good idea. If I don't have to buy a new camera, because I've just had to recently buy a new computer, I don't know if they'll match up together. Because sometimes when you buy a new piece of technology, or your old technology isn't good enough anymore for the new computer, is it? Because it's
Well, it can happen, but that'd be great. Awesome, mate. If you're up for videoing yourself, figuring out that plastic bottle system, that'd be great. Anna, how about you?
I think probably keeping an eye on the pond. I think I've noticed it sort of in that sort of going a little bit green in the sort of under the water stage at the moment. It's just pretty much a liner pond, no pump or filter on it or anything like that. So might have to get something in there just to clear the water a bit. And I think I think I have noticed a couple of trees trying to come up in the wrong place, so I might have to cut those back a little bit. And I think the magnolia at the top of the garden is sort of pretty much visible from actually my bedroom window, because we've got a raised garden, so it's a little bit above my window height, but I can actually see the magnolia from inside. So a good old pink magnolia. So I think that's possibly at some stage needing a bit of a pruning, because I don't know if it's got more branches and flowers at the moment. And probably just keep an eye on the weeding, I think, and trying to get the grass out of the patio space probably as well. That's always a common job.
Quite a lot to be doing there then, Anna, by the sound of it.
See what's going on.
Yeah, I've got to get my chickens. The chickens are at the old house, being looked after at the old house, and I need to create a new chicken house. Lee, a poultry man or not?
I've had chickens in the past, but it seems to be too much trouble for me, to be honest.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. If you've got the time to spend with them, all good and well, but I wouldn't keep them again. No.
Okay, interesting. No, I really enjoyed that. I didn't see that coming, but I've whiled away many a moment of petting a chicken on my lap. They like it.
I've enjoyed keeping them when I've had them, but
yeah,
I like the freedom of being pet free. So
yes, that's understandable. Yeah, because I've got some dog kenneling to do as well. Dogs quite happy outdoors here. In Portugal, which is very different to the British way of looking after dogs, and so some husbandry tasks for me this week and the next couple of weeks. Fingers crossed, says Louise, we'll be home in central Portugal for the next show. Wow, okay, that'll be great. We can maybe have a bit of a live link up with you, but you might want to get on top of the 5 months of catching up of garden maintenance. I think that's going to be quite something. You might want to book Lee to go in there ahead of you. 5 months of streaming, that's going to be pretty considerable, isn't it, to catch up with there. So fingers crossed. Yeah. Anything else, Lee, in these couple of last minutes of the show, the Q&A? Get your questions in for next week, folks, if you missed your chance this week. But anything else people should be on top of in the coming week, in this busy time of year?
There's loads of things. Deadheading. Get your deadheading done. Get your roses headed. In England, start prepping your lawns for the summer coming. Taking out the weeds now before they flower will save you a lot of work in the future.
Yeah.
Prep your veg gardens in England. That should be going full whack at the moment. Yeah.
All right. So lots to do this time. Enjoy yourselves, and please, John. You wanted to say something there.
Yeah, just to make sure that people don't send in for questions for next week, because of course it's the first Monday of the month, so it's our It's what? I guess it's okay with everyone else. Is it? Is that what?
That's our off-air week. Don't necessarily expect us to be on air next Monday, but don't
We will have a think about it. I guess.
Don't be surprised if we are as well. There is that, but questions anyway, and they can be tended to, just like tender plants and little saplings in the group. So pop them in there. Just if we're not here for any reason, or you can't make the Monday slot, stick them in the group and they can get answered there as well. Thanks everybody for your questions tonight, for your lovely pictures, Louise, and for the answers coming in as well from Thane. I now know what a nice plant is that I'm now enjoying in Portugal. Thank you, Head Gardener McGrady, for your input as ever. Cheers, John.
Cheers.
Cheers, Anna.
Thank you.
Bye for now.